Hello everybody and welcome to the Coffee Break Catch-Up series featuring women from the First Fridays network created by the Irish Secretariat's office in Belfast. My name is Amanda Ferguson and today I am joined by the lovely Rachel Powell, who is the Women's Sector Lobbyist with the Women's Resource Development Agency based in Belfast. Rachel, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me, Amanda. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm a bit frazzled and I'm not getting enough sleep, but I'm going to try and do some self-care on that. Could you tell us just a little bit about the role that you have, about that Women's Sector Lobbyist? What does it actually involve?
Yeah, so as you said, I'm the Women's Sector Lobbyist with WRDA, and my role in a nutshell is to inform and influence the development and implementation of all policy that impacts women. So it's quite a broad one, but essentially I try and keep track of any legislative or policy developments, gather information on how women are impacted, and then advocate for a gender response to that, so making sure that the needs of women are considered in that work. So I work with the broader women's sector, with women's organisations, and also the Women's Policy Group.
Okay. Could you talk to us a little about, maybe just give a quick explainer of the Feminist Recovery Plan?
Yeah, so the Feminist Recovery Plan, it was a couple of months in the making before it actually came out. So from the very beginning of COVID and the lockdown, the Women's Policy Group, we started working digitally online, and the policy developments weren't stopping because of COVID. We had to try and keep on track of everything, and immediately we were just seeing that women were being disproportionately hit. So it started with us preparing briefings and statements, writing different letters and articles for politicians and other groups, and we were saying things like, women are being furloughed and losing their statutory maternity pay, or domestic violence rates are through the roof. We need additional support. But some of the stuff we got changes on, a lot of it was just acknowledged, and then nothing really happened. So we decided, look, we're going to pull together all the evidence we have and all the recommendations we have and put it into one comprehensive document where each department knows their responsibility. So that was how we did the plan. There were 18 organisations involved in writing, so I suppose that was one benefit of working from home. We could all do it digitally, but we ended up with this 127-page Feminist Recovery Plan, so it's definitely detailed, but it's been great.
Okay, and how's it been received then? I know you're saying you got some responses.
Yeah, so at the very beginning when we launched it, we had really, really widespread media attention. It was brilliant. We were on the evening news, we were on the radio 5 or 6 times a day, just really highlighting some of the main issues from the plan. Since then, we've had a bit of a mixed response. So some parties have been getting quite interested in the plan and asking questions on it. Others we still haven't engaged with much, but we mostly have been working through the all-party groups. So the all-party group on Women, Peace and Security, 1325, it has been brilliant. They very much, took the plan on board and started lobbying the executive office on it. And just last week, both the First Minister and Deputy First Minister committed to working with us on the plan. So we did get one main political response. It was from the civil service. They wrote us like a 55-page response to the plan. But really, it didn't mention women in most of it. It, denied a gender pay gap. There were some issues with it. So I think we've made the good relationships now to lobby on it and keep the pressure on, but a bit of a mixed bag in terms of how it's been received by political groups anyway.
And is there anything the First Fridays network members can do to help with your work?
Yeah, well, I do think that some of the issues in the plan, they're beyond the women's sector. It's not just our organisations that care about them. There's huge issues to do with, policy, childcare, domestic violence, a whole range of issues that, we all should be lobbying on. So whether you're involved in a policy role or whether you're in a business or even just as a constituent, there are many issues that you can lobby different ministers on. So I think really becoming familiar with some of the main issues of how women have been impacted and really just campaigning on that and raising awareness.
And is there any, like, one or two, I know there's a whole document full of issues, but are there any sort of, if you had a magic wand to try and change one overnight, is there any one in particular that you would go for?
Yeah, I think the first one will be the creation of a childcare provision in Northern Ireland. Not that it's the most important one, but it's the one area I think where we saw how far behind we were on that. So, you know, care is at the core of our economy. And when we started reopening the economy here in Northern Ireland, there was no mention of childcare. How are people supposed to go back to work? Or even as well, you know, if they have to isolate or change to working from home, just 40% of people here have dependent children. So working people, it's so connected to every issue that we have, and so many barriers exist because of the lack of childcare. So it needs to be implemented ASAP. It can't be put to the back end to be after COVID.
I don't think you're the only one that would like that particular issue sorted out quickly. Just regarding the COVID restrictions for you on a personal level, obviously they're disrupting and challenging to everybody, and that impact falls at, you know, at different rates depending on your own circumstances. But how have you managed to cope yourself with the restrictions? You know, what would be your top tips to try and sort of survive what we've been going through?
Yeah, so I would say it's definitely a learning process, isn't it? You know, at the beginning, everyone was like, Zoom, 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 let's quiz, let's do this. And I think for me, you know, in the first lockdown, I actually got really sick during the first one. I found it so tough. And this time around, I've been a bit stricter, you know, about how many Zoom calls I agree to each day, or what workload I can manage. And I think it's important for us, particularly if we're working from home, to realize, you know, just because you're in the one position all day doesn't mean that you're free every minute of that day. Because there's days where I have like 6 or 7 meetings booked in, and I'm like, I wouldn't be able to do that physically. Why am I doing that now? You know, it's not possible. So I think really realistic expectations, having time to take a break in between, and realizing as well, like, your work has moved into your home. You know, it still is your home. So trying to set some boundaries where you can. But I think my main thing is just keeping in touch with family and friends. It really keeps me sane. I also started watching Strictly this year. I just wanted some happiness on the weekends. Recommend it to anyone.
Yes, Bill Bailey's my favorite there, so I quite like him.
Oh, me too.
He's great. Like, I've seen him do his stand-up stuff. He's fab anyway. So Bill for the win. People have been reflecting a lot on their own lives, and they've been talking about, you know, what they've learned, and perhaps it's given them a bit more perspective. Is there anything that maybe one thing that 2020's taught you or given you that you're grateful for?
Yeah, so I think in general, you know, I'm a disabled woman, and I have a whole range of conditions that involves a range of different specialists, and it's just seeing not being able to access that during COVID, it really put it into perspective for me about, you know, how thankful I am to have free healthcare more generally, because I've been looking at other countries where people, not only are they dealing with the health impacts from COVID, but, you know, all of the other health issues that are just going to be ongoing and worsened. So it really put into perspective for me, you know, how much it matters that we do have that provision here in Northern Ireland, and that it isn't eroded. I think it's been a lesson we need to stop underinvesting, or even arguably privatizing aspects of health. You know, this health pandemic has exposed the cracks in our society. And I think all of us will realize that it can't go on that way. We need to make up for the rapid underinvestment that's been about for the past 10 years.
And what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? I ask everybody this because I'm hoping to learn something or have some new wisdom from other people.
I think sometimes it's been hard. This is actually something that someone I work with said to me. So it can seem so stressful when you're working on issues, you know, like I work on, you know, domestic violence and abuse and poverty. You know, it can be very emotionally draining and exhausting, but sometimes making sure that you can make the time to tune out. And do you know what I do every day at 5 o'clock? I put my phone on do not disturb. I turn off like all political notifications, because I'm just like, I am so engrossed in it all day every day that I need a bit of a break, and just setting aside that bit of time for myself. But really, sometimes trying to put it in perspective and say, you know, it is a job, and you are working to improve people's lives, but you can't do that if you don't look after yourself too.
Rachel, thank you so much for talking to me today. Just before we go, can you let us know how people can find you online, all the social media stuff, the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to find out more about the Feminist Recovery Plan and our series, we've ran a whole webinar series. We've had 5 or 6 events so far. They're on our website on wrda.net under the pillar Feminist Recovery Plan. So you can watch all the past webinars, read the briefings, and register for all new events. So We've one this week on violence against women, one coming up on Brexit and a Bill of Rights. So interesting topics each time. And for my work stuff, you can keep updated on Twitter at WS Lobbyist NI.
Brilliant, that's great. Rachel, thanks again very much for joining us today, and thanks to everybody at home or at work or wherever you are for watching this. We're going to be joined next week by another amazing woman from our network, so hopefully you can join us then. And if you want to share this online, please use the hashtag First Fridays. Thank you.